Excuse me, sir, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. All right, hi everyone, welcome back. We are now at the point where we reflect on the decision, the match that has just ended, and of course, listen to the judge's report. So we had a match that featured the team Immaculate Conception High School on proposition and Montego Bay High School for girls in opposition. They contested the motion as to whether or not we should pursue, subsidies, government subsidies, as opposed to imposing harsh or stiff penalties for compliance to the C190 regime. And we felt that both teams are engaged in a fairly robust defense of their position, albeit there were points in the debate that there seemed to have been a bit of overlap and a bit of sort of non-mutual exclusivity at play. But I'll get into that a little later. So let us talk first of all about what we get from Immaculate. Immaculate tells us that most small businesses lack the capacity, lack the capital, lack the resources otherwise to ensure that they are properly compliant with the C190 arrangement. And of course, C190 speaks to sort of prohibition against abuse of workers, broadly speaking, within the workplace. Okay? So Immaculate says to us that, it is this context that leads them to provide a stipend or subsidy rather to these small businesses. These small businesses would use the stipend for training and capacity building, and then they would move on to a process of monitoring, and then ultimately having monitored, then they would go through a process of enforcing the punitive sanctions embedded within the law. Montego Bay High School contends that this is, quite frankly, a waste. They say to us that companies have a fundamental duty to protect their employers, that it is not something for which they need to be trained, certainly not upfront. They say that it is a soft approach being taken by the government, and the government needs to be strident and strong in its advocacy on behalf of worker safety. All right. They say to us that in a number of instances, and they point to examples in various other countries across the world where similar models have been used, where governments have sought to provide a subsidy for training and capacity building, and that subsidy has not materially impacted in terms of improvements in worker safety overall. And they say to us that in the Jamaican context, this is likely to happen. At this point, I just want to levy a sort of a critique here. We hear the examples of what obtains in other jurisdictions. We're not sure if those other jurisdictions are exactly compatible with Jamaica. We're not sure whether or not those circumstances are transferable to what obtains in the Jamaican context. And so it would have been helpful if Montego Bay High School had kind of pointed to the exact sort of comparative that exists in those jurisdictions when compared against the Jamaican context, so that we could be convinced as a panel of adjudicators that we're talking about things that are likely to happen here as they have happened in other jurisdictions as well. All right, that would have helped to make that particular line of argumentation even more persuasive. We also felt that from Immaculate's perspective, we were slightly concerned with Immaculate's sort of argumentation that they would provide the subsidy for training and capacity building, they would go about monitoring, and then they would go about imposing penalties and holding these companies accountable. We were at first concerned that there's going to be a fair amount of defense of each of those three prongs of what it is that they were submitting, but by the end of the debate, we felt that most of the argumentation was grounded on where it should be, which is providing the subsidy to begin with. So although it was a little concerning at first, the concern didn't materialize ultimately. And so we want to commend Immaculate for laying out a strategic arrangement that basically covers all three prongs of what is needed to ensure that worker safety is complied with. Okay. Now, the question do in fact have such grave limitations as to justify the government stepping in and providing this subsidy. Montego Bay High School tells us that, for example, with HR arrangements that are needed to ensure that C190 is properly implemented, there are online softwares and online modalities that exist that small businesses can use to ensure that their HR capacities are properly implemented. We contend that this may very well be the case, and this does do some mitigation to the claim from Immaculate that says, companies just lack capacity overall. But we're also satisfied with Immaculate's response, which is to say, well, small businesses may very well not even know what HR solutions see after, because HR solutions are so ubiquitous across the world. And so that we felt needed, again, another response from Montego Bay High School. Unfortunately, that was not forthcoming. Right. So in the final analysis, we felt that the team that wins is a team that provides the most reasonable path towards ensuring worker safety. Is enforced, is preserved, is adhered to. It's a mechanism that ensures that there is going to be the best solution, the best sort of approach and adherence to C190, and that team would have ended on an impressive 281 points as compared to the second place team's 276 points. The winner of this match in the JCSA High Schools Debate Competition for 2026, the third round, of course, between Immaculate Conception High School and Montego Bay High School for girls, is, ladies and gentlemen, Immaculate Conception High School. Congratulations, Immaculate. Congratulations on a job well done. You have ended with 286 points. And very well tried, Montego Bay High School. You took a very hard line and you defended it well, but unfortunately, it was just not enough to overtake your opponent's Immaculate Conception. Okay. All right. Also, of importance is the best debater. The best debater comes to us as well from the winning team, Immaculate Conception High School, and that is the first speaker. The first speaker, that's the Prime Minister. Congratulations, Madam Prime Minister, on securing the highest score in this match. At this time, I invite both teams to unmute your microphones and exchange pleasantries with each other as we draw close to the conclusion of this match.
Yes, congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you so much for the congratulations and thank you for coming and debating with us. I feel like this debate is something that's so important because the C190 regulations is something that is actually existing that has not been adopted by Jamaica. And like in doing this debate, I feel like it's something that our government could look into, could try and adopt. So thank you so much. And I just feel like this debate was so important.
Oh, that is so very much appreciated. Yes. All right. Thank you very much. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. These debates are not just for conversations and competition. They're really about moving people towards a change, towards being informed about issues that have relevance to the public service at large. And of course, you'd have just heard there from the debater that she has now become informed and is now inspired to play her role in seeing to it that the C190 becomes adopted in the legislative ecosystem of Jamaica. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it. We thank you for being a part of this conversation and we look forward to having you for the next match, which comes up soon. Take care.